All right, let's talk about one of the biggest intellectual showdowns of the 20th century. This is the story of a grand, beautiful dream of absolute certainty. And the quiet logician who proved that dream was utterly impossible. And trust me, this isn't just about dusty equations. It's a clash that completely changed how we think about truth, proof, and reality itself.
So it all boils down to this one question. I mean, really, think about it. Is there a limit to what math can prove? At the start of the 20th century, the brightest minds in the world would have said, no way. They believed any real question could, eventually, be answered. But is that really true? Or are some truths just fundamentally beyond our grasp?
This right here, this was the battle cry. It's from David Hilbert, probably the most influential mathematician on the planet at the time. It just perfectly captures his incredible optimism. He was convinced there were no unsolvable problems, no we shall not know. For Hilbert, math was supposed to be this perfect, unshakable fortress of certainty in a messy, confusing world. See, at the time, math was in a bit of a crisis. New paradoxes were popping up that shook its very foundations. So Hilbert came forward with this incredibly ambitious program to fix it once and for all. His goal was to basically turn all of mathematics into one giant, perfect, bulletproof system, a machine that could spit out every single mathematical truth with zero ambiguity. So what did this perfect system need? Hilbert laid out 3 non-negotiable goals. First, it had to be complete, meaning any statement that's true, you can prove it. No gaps. Second, it had to be consistent. You can't ever prove a contradiction, like proving that 2 plus 2 equals 4 and that it equals 5. That's a deal breaker. And third, decidability. There had to be a step-by-step method and algorithm that could take any statement and tell you for sure whether it was provable or not. That was the blueprint, the whole shebang. But here's the catch. Hilbert's dream was built on logic and language. And those very tools had a hidden weakness, a kind of logical trapdoor that's been around forever: self-reference. You see, when any system gets sophisticated enough to talk about itself, it can get tangled up in some seriously weird, paradoxical knots. Just look at this phrase: the smallest positive integer not definable in under 11 words. Seems like it should point to some number, right? Okay, but now let's count the words in that very definition. 1, 2, 3, 10. It's only 10 words long. So the phrase itself violates its own rule. It's a self-destructing definition. Logicians call this a problem of semantically closed languages. Hilbert was pretty sure his pure formal system of symbols would be immune to this kind of messy wordplay. He was wrong. And this is where Kurt Gödel enters the story. He had this wild idea. What if you could build one of these self-referential paradoxes, not with fuzzy English words, but inside the super strict formal language of arithmetic? His plan, essentially, was to build a mirror, to give mathematics a way to look at itself and describe its own rules. So let's start with something really simple. A statement that's obviously true in a formal system: for all x, x equals x. Total no-brainer. This is the kind of basic building block Gödel was playing with. The real challenge was figuring out how to take statements like this, and even whole proofs, and somehow turn them into numbers that the system itself could crunch. And his first move was pure genius. He created a code. He just assigned a unique number to every single symbol used in the language. The for all symbol becomes 1, x becomes 2, the parentheses becomes 3, and so on. Just like that, every little piece of the language had a secret number identity. This whole process is called Gödel numbering, and what it does is frankly mind-bending. By translating entire formulas and proofs into their own unique, massive numbers, Gödel turned statements about math, like this statement is provable, into statements of pure arithmetic. All of a sudden, number theory could talk about itself. And this, right here, is where everything changes. Using this new code, Gödel could now write mathematical formulas that weren't just about plain old numbers, but about other mathematical formulas. So he was able to ask the ultimate self-referential question: what happens if a statement talks about whether or not it can be proven? And so he did it. Gödel constructed the mathematical equivalent of the liar's paradox. He created a statement, we'll call it G, that, through his clever numbering system, says this statement cannot be proven. He took that fuzzy contradiction from the Berry paradox and translated it perfectly into the cold, hard language of arithmetic. This was the checkmate. And that one sentence, that single self-referential statement, it was like a logical bomb that just blew Hilbert's entire program to bits. The dream of perfect, absolute certainty was about to come crashing down. Let's watch how it demolishes each of Hilbert's 3 pillars one by one. Okay, let's think through this Gödel sentence, G. First, what if G is false? Well, if it's false, then its claim that G is not provable must be wrong. So G must be provable. But wait, a consistent system can't prove false things, so that's a dead end. G has to be true. Okay, but if G is true, then what it says must be true. And what does it say? G is not provable. So there you have it, a statement that is true, but cannot be proven within the system. Boom! That completely shatters Hilbert's first goal, completeness. And if you thought that was bad, the second blow was even more profound. Gödel realized that the very statement, "this system is consistent," could also be given its own Gödel number. He then proved that this statement of consistency is, you guessed it, one of those unprovable truths. A system can be consistent, but it can never prove that it is. This absolutely destroyed Hilbert's second goal, and his hope for a self-verifying, rock-solid foundation for math. The last of Hilbert's pillars to fall was decidability. Now, Gödel's work strongly suggested it was impossible, but it was Alan Turing who really delivered the final proof. In 1936, Turing created this incredible bridge between Gödel's abstract logical limits and the very real practical limits of what computers can do. And the parallel here is just stunning. Turing asked a simple question. Can you write a program that can look at any other program and tell you if it will ever finish running or just get stuck in an infinite loop? This is the famous halting problem. And using a self-referential trick just like Gödel's, Turing proved that no such program can possibly exist. It's uncomputable. And that was the final nail in the coffin for Hilbert's dream of a universal decision-making algorithm. So Gödel's work completely redrew the map for logic and math, but he wasn't done. After exploring the absolute limits of abstract reality, he turned that incredible brain of his towards physical reality, applying the same kind of deep, fundamental thinking to the nature of the universe itself. Yeah, you heard that right. He became close friends with Albert Einstein while they were both at Princeton, and he started digging into the equations of general relativity. And in 1949, he found this bizarre but totally valid mathematical solution that described a universe that was spinning, a universe where the very fabric of time behaved in ways we can barely imagine. Now, to really get what Gödel was up to, you need to understand 2 totally different ways of thinking about time. The first is presentism. That's our gut feeling, right? Only the now is real. The past is gone, the future isn't here yet, and time flows like a river. The other view is eternalism, which says the past, present, and future are all equally real, all existing at once in a static, 4-dimensional block of space-time. Gödel's spinning universe allowed for something called closed time-like curves, which is just a really cool way of saying that you could follow a path through space-time and end up in your own past. Time travel. And his logic was cold and clear. If you can go to the past, then the past must still be there. It can't be gone. For Gödel, this was a mathematical proof that our feeling of time flowing is just an illusion. Reality, he argued, is a single, timeless, unchanging block. So let's pull all these threads together. This whole saga, this clash between Hilbert and Gödel, it was never really just about math. It was a profound philosophical fight about what truth even is. Is mathematical truth something we humans invent, or is it something we discover? Say, Hilbert was a formalist. For him, math was a kind of elaborate game we invented, played with symbols according to rules we made up. Truth was simply anything we could prove within that game. But Gödel was a Platonist. He believed that mathematical truths are objectively real, existing in some abstract realm completely independent of us. Our job is just to find them. And his incompleteness theorems were the ultimate trump card. By proving that there are statements that are true but unprovable, he showed that the landscape of truth is infinitely larger than any map, any formal system we could ever hope to create. Truth exists beyond proof. And that just leaves us with this massive, mind-bending question. Gödel blew a hole in the wall of certainty, and through it we glimpsed a universe of truth that our logical systems can never fully capture. So it forces you to wonder, if a whole reality of mathematical truth exists beyond our ability to prove it, what other fundamental realities might be out there, lying just beyond the limits of what we can even perceive?